speaker is Nuria Lopez from Newcastle University. And she is going to tell us about working together using a wiki to create a Spanish class dictionary. So it's over to you. We're overrunning a little bit, but I mean, I'm happy to take as many questions as there are at the end because we are running into lunch.
I think my presentation is quite fun.
Hello, everybody. What I want to talk to you about today is how my students and myself as well use a wiki to prepare a Spanish dictionary. So I'm going to mainly describe how we organize the task and the participation in the wiki, but I will also give you at the very end some tips that I think can help you if you're thinking of using a wiki for the first time, and also will tell you what things I liked about using a wiki and what things I didn't like so much. Can I ask first of all is if anyone here uses wikis? And does everyone know what they are? So, well, my next slide was the definition, but I don't want to, well, I'll say it very briefly. A wiki is a website, although you will see that in Blackboard, which is the virtual learning environment in Newcastle, it doesn't actually look like a normal website, web page. But it's a website created by several people, several users. So these users can create content, add content, they can delete it, they can modify it. So in the end, the website, the wiki, becomes a repository of work put together by a group of people. Okay? The idea behind the wiki is that by collaborating, by sharing knowledge, we are producing something better than we would have done if we were working on our own. Okay, so that's our wiki. The wiki I use has been created in Blackboard, and it's very easy to create. It doesn't require any technical knowledge at all. You just have to be a bit careful about the instructions that you include when you do the setting up, and we'll talk about the instructions later. If it's easy to create, it's even easier to use. If you want to change or modify the content of the wiki, you just click on Edit Wiki Content. And then you are taken to the page where you work as if you were working with a Word document. It's exactly the same, it looks the same, and it works in that way. And finally, when you have done the changes that you wanted to make, you click on Submit, and the changes are finalized, and the wiki is updated for the next user to go and do whatever they want to do with the content. This is the first time that I'm using a wiki in one of my modules, and I have to say that we are not being very adventurous. So it's not very exciting. We only work with text. So our content is only text. We are not at the moment importing images or media files, or we are not linking one wiki to another wiki or to external web pages. You can do all that, and it's easy to do as well, but we're not doing it. Okay? So I go now to describe what we do in this task, and you can see in the title of the slides that I wrote wikis instead of wiki. And this is because instead of creating a very long document with all the dictionary entries that the students will prepare throughout the academic year, we are doing one wiki, one document for every 2 units of the textbook, so that we don't end up with a long list of words. Okay? Students also wanted this because if they want to revise a specific, they know to what wiki they can go to do that revision instead of going through a very long list of words. I'm going to show you how it looks in Blackboard. So So you can see there that we have at the moment 3 wikis. We are working on the 3rd one, which corresponds to the textbook units 5 and 6. One is finished. So these are the instructions, and there are all the dictionary entries that the students prepared during the weeks that we were dealing with units 3 and 4 of the textbook. So the wiki content is the compilation of the dictionary entries that the students have prepared, and the idea is that by sharing the entries that they prepared, they end up with a larger dictionary that they could have working individually. But hopefully not only larger, also more complete, because every single entry can be modified, can be improved by other students. So they can get more synonyms, more antonyms, more examples, more extra information about the word, etc. Okay, so that hopefully that's what we are doing, creating larger and better dictionaries that they would do if they did that individually. The students are familiar with the task because we piloted the task last year, so they are familiar with the idea of collaborating with each other to create a Spanish dictionary. But the use of the wiki is the new element this year. Okay, we didn't use it last year. The task is organized in the following way. I create a wiki, I give it a title, you saw there is just vocabulary units 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. I add the instructions, and this is the key element, and I will show you the instructions in a second. And then I always provide the first 2 entries for each wiki. Okay, so I select 2 words that I think are relevant, and I start every wiki. After that, it's up to them to decide what goes in their dictionary. I don't enter any other word. Okay? It's entirely up to them. Of course, I go to the wiki to see what's going on, what they are doing, to edit. It requires a lot of editing, etc. But I don't enter any more words. The instructions, I want to show you what instructions I wrote. It says vocabulary units 1 and 2, but the instructions will be, of course, the same for all the wikis. So first of all, I gave information about the content, what the wiki will be about, and you can see that it's about the compilation of the words that they select, and they use any teaching resources, or they can also choose words that they looked up when they were doing their homework. Okay? It doesn't necessarily have to be words that we came across in class. Second point that I put in the instructions is what the wiki will allow them to do. So, collaboration, completing, improving, and modifying entries submitted by other people. This is going very well, but I think partly because they did the collaboration last year, so they are used to it. Okay. Then I give them a sample entry, and this is the format that they have to follow for every single word that they want to include in their dictionary. So this is an example, and they have it there in instructions to follow when they prepare the dictionaries. I also included some recommendations about the presentation of the content, because it can become quite messy and untidy if you're not careful. So I said, please put the words in alphabetical order. It is a dictionary, and be careful with accents and spelling. And the last point in the instructions is an encouragement to think of their own examples instead of copying the example from the handout, from the textbook. And also the reassurance that I will be checking all the entries for accuracy. this is important for them. So I think that the instructions have given you an idea of what the task is about, but I will summarize it very briefly. So the first step is for students to select the words they want to include in the wiki, in the dictionary. As you have seen, the words can be chosen from any of the teaching resources that we use. I always remind them to think of words that are relevant and that are likely to be used again. But in general, they are very good at choosing the key vocabulary, so that's not a big problem at all. They follow the format of the sample entry that I provided, and then every week I check all the entries for accuracy, and this is very important because they always use the wikis before assignments to revise the vocabulary. Okay? So we have to make sure that the examples are right, the spelling is right, accents, etc. And also for accuracy and for gaps, because they know that somebody else can come after them and complete the entry. Some students submit entries which are incomplete in the first place, and that's not the idea. The idea is that they make them better, but not that they submit half of the entry in the first place. The idea is that then somebody else provides a second example, a third example, etc. Okay? The next thing that I want to mention is the participation. The participation in these wikis is optional. It's not assessed, it's not compulsory in any way. They do it if they want to. Okay? And I think we have these 4 types of participation. Free versus guided, and independent versus in-class participation. The first one is the one I described before. They choose any word they want, but relevant, of course, to the topic that we're dealing with, from any of the resources, so they don't have any restraints. Guided participation we do occasionally, and it's when I give them some directions, some guidelines or restraints. For example, directions. If I feel that we are talking about finance, sorry, I forgot to mention that this is a module for business Spanish. I think it was in one of the slides, but I didn't say it. So we're talking about finance, and I think that they put in the wiki key vocabulary, but there are still key words that are not there. So I sent an email and said, be careful with this topic, you have overlooked this topic, so think about what other vocabulary you could include. Okay, so I'm guiding them. Restraints, I use that occasional also, but it's mostly in weeks when lots of new vocabulary is introduced in class. So what I do is I divide the students into groups, and I ask one group to concentrate on one topic or on one activity, and the other group to think of vocabulary from another topic or from another activity. And I think that helps them to provide a wider range of vocabulary, because otherwise you might get most of the students selecting words from the easiest topic or the easiest activity. Okay? But as I said, most of the time it's free. Occasionally it is guided. Now, independent. Independent participations when students participate in the wiki outside class, individually, whenever they want to. And they are asked to do this every week. So part of the homework every week, or the last point of the homework every week, is please think of 2 or 3 new entries for the dictionary. Okay? And again, occasionally we use in-class participation, but the reason why this can only be done occasionally, this is one of the disadvantages of the wiki, is that the wiki can only be edited by one user at any one time. Okay, you cannot have people, 2 or 3 or more people editing the wiki at the same time. So that limits the suitability of the wiki to be used in class. So occasionally we do in-class participation, and I divide the students in pairs, and I give them tasks with different lengths. So when they finish the task, and they do this normally at different times, they select 1 or 2 keywords, and quickly with the computer they enter that in the wiki. Okay? I think this is not ideal, but I do it because I think that encourages students who are not that keen on doing this independently. So by occasionally doing it in class, I think that it improves the participation that they do outside the class. Okay, but as I said, I think from October we did that 3 times only. Okay, most of the time is outside the classroom. The final point about the wiki is the relationship between the wiki content and the teaching materials. And I think this is a very important point for this wiki, the Spanish dictionary. As I said, the teaching materials are sources of wiki content because the students choose words from the teaching materials. But the relationship in our task also works on the opposite direction, because the entries that the students prepare for the wiki, I use them later to prepare teaching materials for my classes. Okay? So I select some of the words that they included in the dictionary, and I prepare materials for follow-up activities, normally speaking activities, where they reuse, recycle the vocabulary. Okay? I think this works well to integrate the wiki in the classroom, so that they don't see it as something that they do outside only if they want to, etc. So I think it's a good connection. And also I think students have a sense of having a say in the content of the teaching materials, because as I said, the dictionary, it's up to them what it contains. But then I just trust them, I use the content that they have created and create teaching materials with that. A few tips for using a wiki. Have a clear purpose of the wiki, not using the wiki for the sake of using the wiki. I think in some cases we get a lot of pressure to use new tools or technology and things like that, but I think it's just use it if you think that it's going to help you, that it's going to help with learning. Think about clear guidelines about the content, but also about the use, how to use it. I think it's a good idea that the tutor starts the wiki, and if that's not possible, demonstrates the wiki or provides an example of the wiki. The next point, assurance of tutors monitoring. And this is very, very important. They don't want to be doing all this work and then not being sure that all information is accurate. Okay, so you need to make sure that they know that you are there, keeping an eye, that you know what words they are introducing, etc. Encourage participation. This is very easy to do. Just tell them that you have been reading the wiki, that you like the selection that they made about a specific topic. For example, the wiki that I showed you, the second one, I thought it was excellent. So I sent, when we finished that, I sent an email saying, I think you made a very good selection of words. Okay? And combine free with guided participation. I think this helps to improve the content. And link wiki with class activities to integrate it. And finally, some things that I like about the wiki, some things that I don't like. I like that it is simple and easy way to collaborate. There's no doubt about that. In this particular task, at least. No technical knowledge required. It's very easy to edit, and it's very easy to monitor. It requires continuous editing, but at least it's not too time-consuming. And for these tasks, the Spanish dictionary, I think it provides a good vocabulary database that otherwise not all students might prepare on their own. Things that I didn't like so much, of course, the limitation that the wiki can only be edited by one user at a time. So I think that limits the use that I can do in class. For different types of activities, it doesn't matter because you can start lots of different wikis and use that in class easily. But for the dictionary, I found that that's not possible. It can easily look untidy, so which means that it requires my weekly editing, okay, making sure that everything looks nice. So conclusions, I think that for this task that we are doing, the wikis is working pretty well. What I don't know is what students think about the use of the wiki, so hopefully I will prepare some questionnaires and ask the students at the end of the year, and I can find out how their participation has been, how many times they have used it for revision purposes, whether they like it, whether they don't like it, etc. But so far I think the dictionaries are quite good. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions?
Do you tell them who can participate?
Sorry.
How do you know, for example, how many of them are participating, how many of them are
I don't follow it.
You don't
I
follow
don't
it?
check it, but you can.
And there are
You
lots
can.
of them doing it.
I don't check it.
Well, the words, you know by the word that they do.
I know how many, I know straight away I can see who has been the last person to edit the wiki, but if you want to, you can get a history with all the participations, but I don't do it. This is optional, and I just try to encourage participation as much as I can, and I'm not bothered about checking who has participated, who hasn't, because they don't get a mark, it's not assessed. But you can do that. Yes.
So I'd say that as regards the in-class use, I use a wiki for translation exercises or translation classes, and I use the comment tool. The students use the comment tool to participate in the wiki rather than editing the pages.
Yes.
You know, which means that even for this, you know, you could have them suggesting entries for the dictionary and then doing the editing afterwards, just
Yes.
cutting them out and pasting them in the wiki.
Yes, I've been very cautious this first time, so I closed the wiki to comments.
Yeah.
So it's only open to editing, but yes, of course, you could have the commenting. Yes, thank you.
Are these English native speakers or other language? Are English native speakers or Spanish native
Not all of them. They are learning Spanish. This is the second year that they are learning Spanish. Some of them are English native speakers, but not all of them. Yes.
So does you did one last year. Does this mean that I suppose they can use that for, or it's forgotten, I suppose, because it's vocab that they all have learned?
Yes, they have what they did last year. Yes, but it was different topics, so they are not using any of the entries from last year in this year's dictionary.
And would you see any purpose on using what they achieved last year for the students that are using this, that are doing those topics this year? Or
I think that the dictionary they prepared last year, I think that they couldn't need that vocabulary this year.
not these students?
Oh,
Would you then recycle that at all with the new students? Or?
I wouldn't, because what I piloted last year was whether it was efficient that they did the dictionary. Do you understand what I mean? It's not because what I didn't want to do is to provide them with a list of vocabulary. So I thought, no, if you want it, you do it.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's the reason why I'm not using and they are lovely dictionaries and very long. They did a very good work, but they are there saved in my computer. We are not doing anything with them because what I like is the process. of that they choose, they create it. And also, you know, to think a little bit about grammar. I know it's very, very simple grammar, but it doesn't matter. And write an example, even if it's a very short sentence, you know, that sort of thing. So I don't know if it could have any other use.
I don't know, it feels like a shame that it's all being used, and obviously they can use it for revising for that year.
Yes.
But it just feels like a shame that there is that, you know, data there.
Yeah, but having said that, last year they knew that they were participating in a project where I wanted to find out whether the process of working in a dictionary was beneficial. So do you understand what I mean? So yes, they were very happy with the result, but they were aware that they were being part of that project. Yes.
How often do you edit it? Do you do it
Every week.
Weekly? So you don't wait till the end of the unit, you know, when they
No, every week. Yes. I take like half an hour every week.
So it's not too time consuming?
No, I wouldn't say so.
So if you want to do it daily, then
No,
the
I
end
think-
isn't it?
No, I think you have to do it weekly.
Yeah.
Because it's not nice when you go to the weekend, it's messy. You
Yeah.
don't feel like doing anything there. Okay, so that's why I try to do it weekly. But no, it's not
Right,
time
okay.
consuming. Well, everything is time consuming. But
No, it's
Not-
good.
not
I mean,
too
it sounds
bad,
good to
not
me.
too
But I
bad.
was wondering if you waited till the end of the unit,
no,
because if say the unit was 2 weeks, you could just say, okay, you've got 2 weeks and then that's take it.
no. I normally edit it before I think they are going to participate, which is usually after the second class of the week. So that when they go to the wiki, they find it very tidy and nice and they feel like participating.
And could you not then use the comment box to make comments, but actually not give them the answer, say if that needs working on, improving, give them a few days,
I don't
so
know.
they get back to it again. Try to see if we can find the answer themselves.
I don't know. This time I didn't want to just do the editing, yes, but I don't know.
How old are these students?
How old? They are third year, so they are final year at university. Yes, but it's the second year learning Spanish, but they are final year students.
Did you think that it's going to be more valuable if you assist this work? I mean, if you assist the students, if you allocate, let's say, a few marks for these students, won't result in better, let's say, better production?
I don't think so. Of course, participation would improve, but I think the beauty of it is that they are doing it even being optional, and that's what I love about it, that it's not compulsory. If they don't want to, they don't have to participate, but still, they are creating very good dictionaries. And I love that because, you know, otherwise we're always with that idea that, oh, if we want them to do it, let's assess it. So I wouldn't want to, I couldn't do it, even if I wanted, but you know, that's not an idea. That's why I don't check who has been participating or not.
Do you offer feedback, like on the entries like this?
I edit
Just
the
edit
entries,
them.
but sometimes if the mistake is serious, yes, in an email, I said, be careful because I found this mistake in 1 or 2 entries.
And they're
Yes.
happy with that?
So, yes, yes. I mean, they know that I read every single entry. That if an accent is missing, I put the accent, you know, things like that.
Can the students see the history of the editing? Can they?
I don't know that.
They can.
They can?
In Wiki spaces, they can.
Which is a good way for them to revise it, like that's kind of feedback, that they look at the history and see what you've corrected. And,
I don't know about that. As I said, what we are doing is very, very basic, so lots of things to explore. But I think that the main thing is that participation is good and the result is the work.
Because I mean, you're getting students to create their own input for their own learning, and you could carry it a stage further by getting students to say copy some of the example sentences and gapping
Yes.
those example
Yes.
sentences
Yes.
and kind of testing each other,
Yes.
creating
Absolutely.
exercises for each
so
other.
they messed up doing it then. They tested it.
Yes.